Welcome to the Galvanize with Gavin podcast. This is your host, baseball player and entrepreneur, Gavin Johns. This podcast will empower you to reach your fullest potential in life. Inspirational stories, keys to success, and practical methods to overcome life's challenges will be revealed. I encourage you to be the light in the lightning and spark a positive change in the world today. How's everyone doing? This is the Galvanize with Gavin podcast. Very special guest on today, professional baseball pitcher with the Tampa Bay Rays, previously with the Baltimore Orioles and Miami Marlins, Tennessee Tech baseball alumni. He was a fifth-round draft pick in 2014. He has an incredible story that we'll get into today about his journey, about overcoming a major health adversity in his life. Just a great testament of God's goodness and just working through his life. Just super amazing story. Thanks so much for coming on, David Hess, everybody.
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here and, excited to get into it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time, coming on here. It's definitely an honor to have you on the podcast. And so, yeah, we'll just get right into it if that's all right with you, my man.
Sounds good.
Sweet. So, we'll start with Tennessee Tech. We both went to Tennessee Tech, the Golden Eagles, and, you got drafted in 2014, as I mentioned. What was that transition like from Division I baseball in college to professional baseball?
Yeah, I mean, people talk about it all the time, how it's a different world once you kind of get out of college. And it's definitely true, especially in the baseball world. You kind of get thrown into the fire pretty quickly. I think after our season had ended and the draft was going on, my name got called and I was, on a plane 2 days later. I made a stop in Baltimore to do some physicals and stuff up there. And then I was down in Florida at our spring training complex, and it was a very different world. Because you get down here and you start to see people from all different nationalities and backgrounds, and half the people were speaking Spanish, and up to that point had hardly even heard Spanish being spoken really. And uh, then it's just baseball kind of takes the forefront of everything after you're used to school kind of being a factor in everything too. But it was a lot of fun, and I think you kind of start to be able to form just yourself as a person a little bit more at that time because you have a little bit of freedom, you have a lot more time, at least in that in the baseball world. You're for half the day you're working, and half the day you have not much else going on, and you get to kind of choose what you want to invest your time in. So it was definitely an adjustment, but it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what I've heard from a few guys. There's a lot of Latin Americans, and they're pretty good
uh
at football as well. And they like to have fun too. So
Oh
that's
yeah, man. There's so much talent. Just
yeah.
you kind of see you look at just baseball through a lens of what you see growing up, and then you start to see other countries and players from different backgrounds, and there's so much talent like the Latin guys have, and honestly, like they have a whole different mindset that they bring to the table that's just rubs off on you. Like they come in, they have fun. It's a lot of music, a lot of laughing, a lot of smiles, and so it's infectious.
That's awesome. So not only did you make it to professional baseball, but you've made it to the highest level of Major League Baseball. And through a lot of faith, hard work, and perseverance, you made it to the pinnacle. What was that journey like to the top, to the MLB?
Yeah, there were a lot of ups and downs through that time. I started off on a really good foot, did really well. Had a little bit of struggles as I adjusted the next season to a higher level. Figured that out and had some more success, and then came back down, had to adjust a little bit, and so it was a lot of like back and forth. And so just to, ultimately get to the big league level, that was such a rewarding thing. And like you said, you work so hard for it for so long that when it all comes together, and it pays off, it's something that's really hard to put into words. And just to be in such a cool city, like I know Baltimore has a certain reputation about it, but once we got there and we kind of started to learn the area, we really enjoyed it. We enjoyed the city. We got to meet some great people along the way and form some really good relationships. And it's fun whenever you especially get to play for a team that has such a good history, and a good fan base. And they definitely let you know if you've done good or bad. They if you have a couple bad outings, they're not afraid to let you know how they feel. But on the flip side, they'll let you know if they're feeling good about you too. So
Yeah,
I mean, it was a dream come true. And like you said, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of time. And it just, for it to come together like that was awesome.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I got to ask, growing up, who was one of your favorite baseball players to watch growing up? Some who are some of your role.
Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up a Braves fan. That's I feel like being in the South, they pretty much take the cake. And I loved watching all the great pitchers that the Braves had. I loved watching Greg Maddux and all those guys. I mean, they pretty much dominated for years. I loved watching Nolan Ryan. He was a little before me, but I would watch videos all the time of him pitching. And uh, one of my favorite players was Chipper. I mean, he's as a Braves fan. If you're not a huge Chipper fan, I don't know what you're doing. But those were outside of that, I think that you had some of the obviously the big names in baseball. At that time, like Verlander was a big guy that was coming up, and he was fun to watch. And so yeah, it was just there were a lot of guys to look up to and try and kind of embody in a lot of different ways.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now you're able to be that for the next generation, which is cool too.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how many people will remember much about me, but if somebody remembers me in 10 years, then that'll be pretty cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, recently, this past year, you were going on a run and you had some major chest tightness and
Mhm.
severe shortness of breath. Later found out that you were diagnosed with cancer. Um, that must have been super difficult for you. What
Yeah.
was that journey like?
Yeah, so it was something that had kind of been I guess in the works for a while. Last season about halfway through, I just started not feeling right. Like you said, the shortness of breath, I had chest tightness, and I just felt like my chest always needed to pop, just weird stuff like that. But with COVID going around, I just kind of chalked it up to something was going on with that because I feel like every week there's some new side effect or symptom that it has. And so I thought that maybe I got it and didn't realize it. But yeah, when I got home, that's when everything came to a head. And so that run, I later, when I got to the hospital, they pretty much said that I should have died on the spot right then, because the pressure. I had a tumor in my chest that was the size of uh, a cantaloupe or pineapple. Like the shape was more like a pineapple, but it was a little
Wow.
bigger than that. And so the pressure that was putting on my heart and my lungs, and just preventing me from breathing properly, it was in a lot of ways it was a miracle that I got through it. And then to get to the hospital, get to the the emergency room initially, um, and for them to kind of just run through some of the tests and then to figure out like that was there, and it explained a lot of things, that's for sure. Just some of the stuff that I'd been feeling, but it was just I mean, it's just a surreal moment, like it's something that I never in a million years, would have thought would have happened, especially like, I'm pretty young, like I feel like I'm in pretty good shape and healthy. And so for that to happen, just it was just wild. I mean, it was a whirlwind of events that just kind of it happened fast. And it felt like, from the time I got diagnosed to starting treatment, it just seemed like it was the blink of an eye. So life comes at you fast, that's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember being on Instagram that day and
Hmm.
seeing a post of yours, letting everyone know you had a picture of the tumor and you had a Bible verse. It was Genesis 50:20 says,
Hmm.
"You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good."
Yeah.
What what does that verse mean to you?
I mean, that's something that, when all this started, that just kind of came to the forefront of my mind. And I think a lot of times people look at that and think like, oh, like that means that you're going to be healed and and that's going to happen and everything's just going to be great and life's going to be good from now on. And I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I think that, especially as we're approaching, Easter right now, I think as a Christian, you really are kind of faced with the fact, like, when you choose to be a follower of Jesus, you're signing up for a life of difficulty.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, what that verse kind of like embodies to me, and especially through all this, is the struggles and the pain, the difficulty that we go through. God's using all that. He's working it together to make some ultimate good out of it. And just because we have to go through those difficult things, it doesn't take away from the fact that God's good. It doesn't take away from, the just goodness and sovereignty that he has. But I think that he has a way of just bringing things together that we can't see past and using it, exactly for this right now, using it as a story that hopefully motivates and inspires other people to, keep pushing through whatever it is. I mean, for me going through this cancer journey, that was a big thing. But for some people, it's just, everyday life. Some people grow up in difficult environments. Some people have jobs that they absolutely hate. Some people have other medical struggles that they're going through. And just to have that hope that, one day this is all going to be good and it may be in our lifetime or it may be afterwards. But ultimately, like, one day, one way or another, it's all going to be all right.
absolutely. Wow, wow. That's powerful. That perspective, man. I'm gonna read the caption. Actually, I wrote it down from
Okay.
your, and you said, "We are confident this will all be gone from my body and I'll be back doing what I love on a baseball field soon and be healthy while doing it."
Yep.
How how in the world did you keep that perspective, because so many people, they would have been crushed, and I'm sure obviously you were crushed,
Hmm.
but I want to know, like, how um your faith had allowed you to have that perspective when the world was crashing down.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think one thing is, I've been walking with Jesus for a while, and I think through that, just in life, you see like through little things that trust is earned. You know what I mean? I think that everyday life in itself, each day we wake up and we have breath going into our lungs, the sun comes up, and things that we just take for granted and don't even think about, like, you know, that in itself is just a miracle on a daily basis. And so over time, just kind of knowing and seeing that whatever's come my way, whatever's been put in front of me, like, I've gotten through some stuff, I've gotten through some difficult stuff, but God's been walking with me and helping me through it. And so I think the ultimate, test of that, and I was just talking about this on a completely different baseball related scale. When you come up with a plan or an approach for something, the time that you don't want to change it is when it's going to be put to the test. And
Mm,
so the last thing you want to do, in my opinion, in these big moments is completely, falter away from the thing that sustains you for so long. And so
mm,
I think that, you know, going into this, there was definitely some emotional times. There was definitely a lot of, I'm still processing it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and constantly just seeing different facets of it. But at the end of the day, I just, God was really gracious in a lot of ways, honestly, and just from the get go, kind of was there, and I felt a lot of comfort just knowing that, like, he was with me and one way or another, like, it was gonna be okay. I didn't know what it was gonna look like. I didn't know if it would take 2 months or 2 years or 20 years, but I just knew somehow, like, I don't know, maybe it's because 'cause I'm a competitive person and I just have some drive in me or something, but I just knew that, I was gonna put in the work that I needed to do and, let God kinda take care of what he could take care of and just take it one step at a time.
Absolutely, absolutely. What stands out to me is your faith. With the name like David, after King David, I can see, I can honestly say for you, a man after God's own heart, and so not only did you have that enduring time, with the cancer, with the chemo treatments and everything, but you know then you got told you beat it, and you over
Mhm.
it, and you were cured for that. That is such an inspirational story, my man, that so many people can take encouragement out of, and that was a major obstacle, and it reminds me literally of David and Goliath, and
Mhm.
David was allegedly unmatched, against this huge beast, and
Oh, yeah.
with his faith that, God gave him the power to overcome that. Just like you with the cancer. Um, yeah, I just wanted to say, man, it's such an encouragement, it's such an inspiration, it's such a beautiful testament, just like you said, how gracious God is and how he gave you the power to get through that, my man. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and that was something, going into it that it's I actually thought about this quite a bit. I was like, we always think that, I mean, because ultimately God is in control of everything. But when bad things happen, we're so quick to point out, like, oh, well, he did this the same way that we are when good things happen. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I think what I was really reminded of through all this, the same way like you were talking about with David and Goliath, like there's giants and there's things that come our way, and those things aren't of God. Like they're not things that he designed, they're not things like that he wants to be the case. But ultimately, the only reason that things are put in front of us is because it's going to glorify him in one way or another. And again, we may not always know what that looks like. It may be something that's daunting and seems kind of like outmatched for us. But I think that at the end of the day, like when stuff like that comes our way, the ultimate purpose is to bring us closer to him and for him to somehow be glorified through it. And, in situations like this, you see, on the other side when you come out of it, and I've been, fortunate with everything to get through it. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about, to use it as a testament and something that's, or a testimony as something that's going to show, how powerful he is and how loving he is towards us.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that is powerful, and yeah, definitely encouraging, my man. Um, so to give everyone an update, if they don't know, that David is currently finishing touches of his rehab just to get back to the baseball shape, um,
Hmm.
and he's going to be back in action soon, and how is that process going, and how excited are you to take that mound again?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, first off, I can't wait. I think that was something that was a big driving force through all of this was just, I feel like God makes us all with certain skill sets and certain talents, and for whatever reason, I can throw a baseball, pretty hard and throw it in the box at least a little bit, and so, when that's kind of taken away from you, it's definitely something that you look forward to getting back to, and so, I got cleared for baseball activity at the end of January. And so, I was fortunate and got to come down to spring training. And, that in itself was so fun because, there's been tons of guys here that I've, talked to throughout the off season, throughout the whole process. And, seeing them and being able to hug them and like just kind of like celebrate a little bit, that everything was kind of on the, in the rearview mirror a little bit more, that in itself was, I mean, just so much fun. And so, I still, like you said, I still have a little ways to go before I'm out on a mound, but just to be down here and, back in baseball activity, I'm definitely ready to get back into games and start, back to where I was last year. But like I said, just to be here, just to be doing this again and being around people that I care about, people that I know, it's I mean, it's awesome. It's just something that I didn't know how long it would be until, this was gonna be the case, because, or if it even was gonna be the case at all. I mean,
Yeah,
that was something that even right now, that's something that in the back of my mind, I kinda worry about sometimes. Like, am I gonna be able to get back to baseball shape? Am I gonna be able to get back to where I was, before all this happened? And, you know, hopefully that'll be the case, but, we're working towards it. Everything's going well right now.
absolutely, absolutely, man. And God's gonna be right there with you every step of the way, man.
Mhm.
He never leaves us or forsakes us, and he's brought you through, that other giant, and he's gonna bring, both of us through many more giants in the future.
For sure.
I really do believe that this is just the beginning for you, and he's got a lot more in store for you for your baseball career. But just like you said, it's like we got to take it one day at a time,
For sure.
and you know, just like you've realized, is like tomorrow isn't for certain, so
Yep.
just that perspective, we have to be grateful with what we're given. I'm so encouraged that you have a great support system, like you said, and your wife Devin been there with you every step of the way, which is,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's just been awesome, my man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something that's easy to kind of, going through all this. It's easy to say like I got through it. I did that. Well, it's not easy to say that, but people do say
Yeah,
that. And I mean, I think it would be, such a disservice to everybody around me if I didn't say, how much of an impact that makes in itself. I mean, like you said, my wife, my family, my friends, like we were, I mean, so lifted up by the people around us, and I said this, I think, a couple weeks ago when I got down here, how it's so amazing how something that's so awful and that we, hope our whole lives we don't have to experience could be something that unites people in such a way, such a big way. Um, and I mean, I'm not like a, big like me guy. Like I really like to see other people do well and encourage them and build them up, and I'll just kind of, sit in the background and do my thing, and I'm cool with that. So to kind of be pushed in the forefront of that a little bit with this, and something that's such a, a hard thing to kind of process through. Like I said, there's so many people that have come around and really made that such a doable thing, or just feeling like it's something that can kind of be conquered. And so, and to anybody that's listening to this, that's one of those people that's reached out, or kind of backed us through this whole thing. We're so appreciative. We couldn't have done this without you. I couldn't have done it without all that support. And man, just truly from, I speak for myself and my wife and our family, like truly, like we're very appreciative and thankful for all you guys.
that's awesome. That's awesome, my man. So, um, you know, we have David Hess, the believer and the Christian, the man of strong faith. We have David Hess, the stud right-handed pitcher with the hard fastball and the wipeout slider, right? And then I want to know, outside of baseball, what are some of David's, hobbies and passions that take up most of your time? What do you say? Like, what
Ooh.
do I do for fun?
So I have quite a few things that I'll kind of occupy myself with. Um, I mean, one thing is at heart, I'm just a big kid. I'm a giant nerd. I'll play some video games and get kind of engulfed in that. Well, me and my wife are almost always watching a show, and we're in knee deep with something at some point. So that's in itself, something fun that we get to do. being outside and doing stuff there, I think that's, something too. But I think the anybody that really knows me, or has spent time around me probably knows that I am about as big of a Star Wars nerd as you're gonna find.
Let's go.
Um, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that is more into it than I am. I feel like I've watched every show. Like I haven't read the comic books, but I know, what the storylines of them are. So I'm in deep with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So who's your favorite character?
uh,
Pick.
I mean, I'm do I?
I know it's a tough decision, but if you had to pick.
It is like it's hard because there's a lot of, I mean, just a lot of great people to pick from. But I think, at the end of the day, I think the coolest one's Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Um, I think that, especially, like when he kind of got killed off in that first movie, just to see, like, in the TV shows, the cartoons, and all that stuff. Like, he's got a pretty cool story that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
Even
cool.
even though he's a bad guy, he's still a cool bad guy.
I like that. That's funny. That's funny. Well, my man, that wraps it up for the Galvanize with Gavin podcast. I really, really, really appreciate you coming on, man. Definitely a big honor, and definitely grateful that you got to come on and share your story. And
Hmm.
everyone, follow David, follow his journey, and keep praying as well. So yeah, my man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's always fun getting to, kind of use the challenges and struggles and show that there's victory in it. So thanks for having me on and being able to kind of talk about that a little bit. And I hope it's used for good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks, my man. We'll talk soon. Keep up the good work, brother.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, hey, bro.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Galvanize with Gavin podcast. I hope you were inspired and empowered to reach your fullest potential in life. For more resources, visit gavinjohns.com. For businesses interested in sponsoring the podcast, visit gavinjohns.com/sponsor. Thank you all, and God bless.